Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the Shanren Raz Pro Smart Bicycle Taillight. One of the biggest advancements in bike taillights aren't just brighter LEDs, but it's smarter taillights with integrated sensors. Now with the Shanren Raz Pro, this is a very smart taillight that was successfully launched off of a Kickstarter campaign. This has all the modern day features as well as Bluetooth connectivity with an associated app. Now packaging wise, really simple. You can see white and black graphics. You have a little window here where you can see the taillight, which has this nice round design. You have a little overview of all the features here, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of sensors here with a really unique feature set. Otherwise pretty simple. I'll go ahead and take it out of the box, and while I do that, we'll go over the specs. Retail price for this is $39.90 directly from Shanren's website. It's also a little bit cheaper on Amazon at $36.99 right now. It features 12 full color LEDs, which is a really cool feature. So you can actually change a color here with simple interaction. So something you don't really see with a lot of taillights. It's 60 lumen maximum output with run times that vary from 24 to 46 hours depending on which mode you pick. It also has an ambient light sensor, so it can adjust to the environment, as well as a brake sensor, as well as a bump sensor. So quite a few options here. And one of the coolest features here is the Team Sync feature. So if you have multiple of these Raz Pros together, they can actually sync together if they're the same color and same mode. So the flash modes will actually get in sync, and that'll make your group look larger and more uniform. So a really nice feature that improves safety. Now inside the box, you get the actual taillight, which is pretty sleek. You get the instruction manual. You get a proprietary charging cable with these little magnetic ports on here. It's an interesting design you don't typically see, but it actually just latches in place. You do have to make sure you don't lose the cable though. And inside the box, they include the RX1, which is a seat post and helmet bracket. Now this is very similar to a computer mount. So let me pull this out. It basically has these 4 tabs, a tab on each side, and you take the O-rings, loop it through and around either your stem or a handlebar or seat post, wherever you want to mount it. They also offer RX2, which is a saddle mount, the little plastic bracket that fits between your saddle rails. So now let's take a look at the weight of the Raz Pro. So just the taillight comes in at 20 grams, so pretty light. And then if we take the mount, and this is the seat post mount with the padding and the 2 O-rings that go with it, that comes in at 10 grams, so pretty light package overall. So now let's go over the fit and finish of the Raz Pro. This is probably one of the smartest taillights we've actually reviewed here. And considering how many bike lights we review, that's saying a lot. And visually, it's a very modern design. So it's a circular design with the 12 LEDs in a little concentric ring. Now, this is not a cob design, so you can see they're individual LEDs that illuminate together. It's fairly thick, though, if you look at the side profile. So you have an integrated battery, the mount on here as well. What's cool about this is because of this interesting charge design, because there's no USB port or a little plastic or rubber gasket, it's actually IP68 rated, which is really high. So this can actually be submerged underwater for up to 30 minutes, which is a really nice feature. The downside is a proprietary charging cable. You want to make sure you don't lose this, and if you want to charge this at work, you're going to have to bring it with you, as you likely don't have another one of these lying around. Now mounting wise, pretty simple. It's kind of a Garmin style, so rotate to lock. You do want to make sure when you mount this on your bike that the power button is pointed upward as it's calibrated for that. The mount itself is really cool, even though it's a little bit more tedious to put on with these hooks and the O-rings. They've actually accommodated both arrow seat post and round seat post with this little curved design. This is very reminiscent of the Magic Shine taillights, which just have a little indentation here. So it's great, it's more versatile. They don't include any clip, like a body clip, but you can certainly use this to mount it on your helmet or even mount on your clothing or hooks. So pretty adaptable. They also include the helmet pad here. So you could swap out the thicker pad and put this more flush one. And that works better on a helmet. So a lot of versatility here. And with the Team Sync feature, it can actually match the flash both on your helmet and seat post if you want to use 2 at a time. Now the user interface is pretty simple. You have a 1-button interface. So you pretty much press it to turn it on. Click it to cycle through the modes, and I'll show the app later. You can actually reorder which modes you have, which is a really cool feature again. So up to 8 modes here. You can change the color by simply doing a quick twist. And you can see it'll cycle through a preset set of colors. You can also use the app to pick from an RGB spectrum. Another very unique feature. I'm not sure why you'd want to change a color. I don't recommend running a blue taillight. You want to stick with red, white, or orange as a side marker, but definitely a nice feature. You can also double click on the button to switch the color. So that's nice. You don't actually need the app to switch a color directly. And the nice thing is you can actually go all white on the front and then use this as a front warning indicator. Now let's look at the output of the Raz Pro. There are 8 available modes, and as you saw with the app, you can configure which ones you actually want to use. There are quite a few flash variations, as well as the Comet and Breath, which have a nice pulsing effect. Now let's take a look at the Raz Pro on the road. As you can see here in the daytime, it's not particularly bright, especially in full sunlight. It's too dim to actually be seen with the 12 distributed LEDs. However, we're really impressed with how well the brake sensor worked. As you can see here, it doesn't trigger until you actually brake, unlike a lot of other brake sensors we've used, which have a lot of false positives. The other feature is also this bump sensor you saw goes white. It's a little bit unusual. I don't think a lot of people will understand why it went white, but it does catch your eye. Here you can see as I come to a stop, the brake sensor actually triggers and holds until you start moving again. It's a nice feature. A lot of manufacturers implement this in different ways. Sometimes they end up flashing, and sometimes they go to a constant high steady mode as the Raz Pro does. But as I mentioned, it's quite impressive how well it's calibrated. The bump sensor is also not that sensitive. You can see here when you hit the bumps, it does trigger, but sometimes it triggers a little bit later. Again, I don't think this is a particularly useful feature, but it is a nice to have, and since you already have the brake sensor, it's just a slight modification of that. Here's an example of the auto sync. So if you have 2 Raz Pros in the same color and output mode, you can see they quickly sync together. So as I cycle through, it syncs, and it's a really nice effect that helps for better visibility at night. Also, it's worth pointing out the color change is very simple to do, especially with the app. And with auto flash and different colors, it's a great way to differentiate yourself on the road. I don't recommend using different colored taillights. I would stick with red. But as you can see here, you could attach a second Raz Pro to your body or use it as a side marker. And it's just a really cool feature you don't typically see with taillights. So now let's take a look at the Shanren app. This is free both on the Android and iPhone. And it's a really nice way to extend a lot of the functionality of the Raz Pro. This app also supports their GPS computers. To connect to the Raz Pro, I have the Raz Pro on, I have Bluetooth on. I'm going to go search for the device. Here you can see the different computers they offer, as well as the sensors. We'll click Raz Pro, start scanning. You can see it found it pretty quickly. Now we're going to connect to it. And this is a cool thing because it has Bluetooth connectivity, you can control all the features. One of the best features here is the full RGB color selection. And this is pretty cool. You can see I'll actually update pretty quickly. Now I'm not quite sure why you'd want to run these other colors. I'd highly recommend sticking with red, white, or orange for a side light. But you can use the other colors as a secondary light if you want to wear this on your backpack or as like a side marker. So it's pretty cool. It updates quickly. You can also change the lighting mode. This is another nice feature. You can reorganize the different modes. So if you have a mode you prefer, you just drag and drop and add it to the list. And if you have a mode you don't really care about, you can take it out. So it makes it a lot simpler. You can organize it exactly as you like it with the modes you prefer. Something we've rarely seen in a mode. You can also control all the sensors. So you can turn off the light sensor. You can turn off the brake sensor. You can turn off the bump alert. So you can really set it up the way you like it. They have different modes as either front light, helmet, which automatically have some defaults that make sense. So by default, it comes with the light sensing off The light sensor mode actually turns off the light in brighter settings and then turns it back on when it detects it's darker, which is an interesting feature. It's a good way to preserve battery, but not a great way to stay daytime visible. Additionally to that, you can change the team up setting. So this is the auto syncing. You can make it automatic or put a password so you're not syncing to random strangers' taillights. So if you have a team or a couple buddies, you can set up a password. There's also multiple light output modes. There's low, and medium, and high. So it normally comes in as normal, but you can adjust that. You can also change the sleep for all the way from 10 minutes down to 30 seconds. So that's a nice way to preserve some battery. Default seems to be about 4 minutes. So as you can see, the app is pretty simple to use, and you can full reset back to default settings. You can also see the battery status here, which is probably one of the best features. So before you start riding, you can go check it and make sure you have enough charge. So now let's do a little comparison between the Raz Pro and other taillights on the market. Now there's a lot of options on the market, everything from more simple taillights like the Royo 100. It's a USB Type-C charging Planet Bike taillight. No sensors, but it's pretty bright. Simple one-button interface and multiple LED design. Really easy to use. You don't have any of the smart features, no sensors, but really simple and honest. There's also more elaborate taillights like the Light in Motion via switch. You can see it has a single LED design. A really cool mounting design where the USB is actually, the dongle is built into the light. And then very bright with a very focused single LED. Now that's one criticism of the Raz Pro with the 12 LED design. They're not bright enough to really be daylight seen, so it's definitely better for nighttime only, while something like the Via has the daytime visibility with the more focused optics. The Raz Pro also looks quite a bit like the older Magic Shine CME 60. You can see these both have brake sensors. Where Magic Shine went square, Raz Pro went circle. Pretty similar dimensions. This also has a brake sensor, but no ambient light sensor. One thing I like about the CME is you can see it has a cob LED design with this grid of LEDs rather than the single individual LEDs. So this looks a little bit more modern when illuminated, whereas the Raz Pro, you can see it has more distinct light. It would have been nice to have a cob LED that would light up the whole thing. It doesn't have very good side visibility though. You can see with the beveled edge. So up to 270 degrees, which is really nice. Something you can see on other taillights as well. It really helps so when you're riding, even at high angles, traffic will see you. Now, smart taillights are becoming a lot more popular these days. This is the Magic Shine CME 200. Not only does this have a secondary bottom LED, but also has the ambient light sensor, which provides a smart mode, as well as this little bottom LED, which is really cool. It also has the brake sensor built in. So all the features you'd want. As you go up in the price range, you'll see the Bontrager Flare RT. This has Bluetooth connectivity, which will work with Garmin and Bontrager computers, something that the Raz Pro doesn't have. Although with the Raz Pro, you do get the app, which allows quite a bit of customization. You can't just connect this to your head unit, though. That would be a nice feature. But you can see the Raz Pro is quite a bit cheaper than the about $60 Bontrager. It's a little bit bigger, but it has more features and more customization than the RT has. And one comparison that's always fun to do is a Lupine Roadlink. This is $110, so quite expensive, but if you remember the review for this that we did, this has a lot of customization, but you can see the little cheat sheet here. You simply hold this, and then you count the number of the flashes of the LED. And this lets you adjust the adjustability of the brake sensor from a low, medium, high, all the way to off, as well as switch it between low, medium, high settings, similar to the Raz Pro, all without an app. So that's one nice thing with this. You don't have to worry about the app becoming non-supported with future iOS updates. But with the Raz Pro, you get a lot more easy to use interface. You don't have to count flashing lights, which is kind of crazy. Now let's go over the pros and cons for the Raz Pro. What we like about the taillight is that it's highly configurable. Using the app, you can change the color, you can change which modes and the order they appear. as well as the timeout. So it's really nice to have so much customization. It also has unique and eye-catching output modes. With multiple flashes and pulse modes, you can find the one that matches your riding style. It also has a very well-calibrated brake sensor. It seems to only trigger when you're actually decelerating and doesn't have that many false positives, which would drive down the runtime of the taillight. Some of the cons for the taillight is the fact that it's not really daytime bright. Even though it's 60 lumens, because it's 12 separate LEDs, it's just not focused enough to get through bright sunlight. So definitely something better to use at night. We also don't like the proprietary magnetic charging cable. Instead of using a generic USB-C or micro USB, you have to always keep this cable with you. And if you were to lose it, you'd have to contact Shanren to get a replacement. And finally, we're always a little wary of smart applications like this that require a separate cell phone app to use all the features. If Shanren were to drop support for the app, you would lose some access to be able to turn on and turn off some of the sensors and other customization. It would have been nice to have some backups that can be accessed through the power button. Taking everything into account, we'd give the Shanren RAS Pro a 9.1 out of 10. It's a very high-tech and configurable taillight. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us on our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at The Sweet Cyclist. This is The Sweet Cyclist reminding you to enjoy the ride.